Hey guys, it's Solbyte, and today I'm going to be going over object slicing. Now, object slicing is something that you will more than likely see at some point during your career, and it happens whenever you assign a derived object to a base object. And whenever you do that, only the base portion of that object, of the derived object, will actually be copied into the base object, if that makes sense. So essentially what happens is that the derived bits, the derived specific functionality will be sliced off whenever you do that. So it's easier to kind of show you guys an example. So firstly, we have a base class with a constructor, a getNum, and a print class, a virtual void print class. And then down here, we have a derived class inheriting from the base class, and we have a constructor for it using the same methodology we are using for the base class. And we also have a print class which overrides the print class in the base class. So I'm saying class so much it's starting to make it hard to speak. Okay, but anyways, so and then down here we are creating an object b and setting the num equal to 1, and we are setting an object d, and we are setting its num equal to 5. So the getNum, if you guys have watched my inheritance video, you'll know that the getNum, because it's not a pure virtual function, and because we don't override it in any sort of way here in this derived class, it's going to behave exactly how it does in the base class. And if I show that to you guys just really quickly, then we will see that we get 1 and 5 down here, which is exactly what they should be. So the base object should be 1 and the derived object should be 5. So that's exactly what we want to see. So like I said at the beginning, object slicing happens when we set a derived object, when we assign a derived object to a base object, right? So that would look like this basically. So if we set b, the base class object, equal to d, the derived class object, some weird stuff starts to happen here. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys the two important things. So I'm going to copy getNum down here just so we can see what happens to the number, right? And then we're also going to use print class. So if you guys had to guess, what do you think will be printed here? What do you think it will say? Do you think it'll say base because it is technically a base object, or do you think it'll say derived because it came from a derived object, and we are assigning the base object to that derived object? So naturally you would think maybe it would still be derived because we are setting our base object equal to the derived object. So it can get a little confusing, but anyways, I'm just going to go ahead and shut up and show you. So we're going to compile, and here we go. So we are seeing that it says base, all right, even though the method in derived says that it should console out derived, right? But it still says base. Now, why is this? So because it's a base object, you could think of it in this kind of way, right? So if you did this the opposite way, right, and you set like the base object to the derived object, it'd be just fine. Why? Because the derived class is from the base class, right? You could think of it like if we had a base class called animal and then a derived class called dog. A dog is an animal, right? But an animal isn't exactly a dog, right? So that's kind of why this happens, right? An animal doesn't bark, only if it is a dog. So therefore, if we had a function that was specifically for barking, it would get sliced off, and therefore it would refer back to whatever sound a normal animal makes, or I mean, I don't know, whatever we would end up putting here, right? So anything that is overridden, or any new methods for that matter, will be sliced off. So we are only left with what the base class knows. Now, we do get 5 though for this. So because the derived class does have the num integer as a member, it can still be assigned or copied over into this base object. So that still works perfectly fine, but because the base class, because the base object has knows nothing about this, right? It can't grab that, right? So a reason for understanding this is, you may run into doing something like this in the future in a much bigger project. You might be tempted to do something like this. So, and naturally, you sometimes would want to find a solution for doing this, right? And well, you're in luck because I have that solution, and it's using pointers and references, our best friends, pointers and references. So I'm actually going to go ahead and show you guys an example of that now. So the way that we need to do this, if we want to use similar functionality to this, or if there would ever be a reason that you would actually want to do something like this, is we can use pointers and references. And I think I brought up a pretty similar example in the past as well. So, or sorry, in a earlier video. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. So we're going to make a pointer, a base pointer called B. We are going to set it equal to the memory address of D. All right, perfect. So now what we can do is we can use B to point to whatever functionality is in the derived class and still be able to use all the unique abilities of that derived class using a base pointer object, right? So now, because we are doing this, we need to set it to the pointer notation here, right? So we got to use these little arrows. Perfect. And so now let's go ahead and go to the terminal and rerun this and see if we can actually get something that says derived, and we do. Perfect. So that's awesome. So this is how you would fix that problem of object slicing. And there will be cases where you might be tempted to set an object equal to another object, or sorry, a base object equal to a derived object. But whenever you start getting, because you won't get compilation errors, you will just get totally wrong data. And that can be sometimes pretty frustrating because you have no idea what's going on there. So this is why I make this video, because I've actually dealt with a problem like this in the past, and I had no idea what was happening. So it's good to know about these things whenever you, or sorry, as you continue your journey in object-oriented programming. And yeah, so pointers and references are always super useful. They're useful for so many cases, including avoiding object slicing. So, all right, and I'm sure there's more examples I could probably get into, but this is kind of the basic. If you know how pointers and references work, the rest should kind of make sense. But I mean, as always, I'm going to leave some references to other sources that kind of discuss the object slicing a little bit more in depth. So feel free to look in the description for those. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. And thank you for watching.